Good morning, students. Today we are going to learn new lesson number 10, disaster management. So questions has been there. First question is, what is disaster? So disaster is the incidents that occur suddenly, causing heavy damage to life and property. The disaster can be man-made or natural. The second question is that which disaster have you experienced in your area? So nowadays we are experiencing the natural disaster, that is COVID-19. We are suffering from this disease. So our lives has been damaged, our lives has been affected due to COVID. Our day-to-day activities has been collapsed due to COVID. So this is the natural disaster which the world is experienced nowadays. Third question is, what are the effects of the disaster on local and surrounding? So on local life as well as on global life due to disaster of COVID-19, not only local but also global life is suffering. Now our daily activities are collapsed. The peoples are dying due to COVID-19. So very tremendous conditions are there. So it affects on the lives of people. So let's start the new lesson, disaster management, with the concept of disaster. So let's see about disaster. Variously dangerous events occur many times in environment. Those are called as disasters. Some of the main natural disasters are flood, wet and dry famine, cyclones, earthquake, volcanoes, etc. These are all of a sudden troubles to the mankind. So sudden incidents, we can call it as disaster, which can cause trouble. So such events cause a sudden change in the environment and thereby cause the damage to it. Environment is also damaged due to use of natural resources for our development. This leads to sudden disaster as unexpected to human. This can called as man-made disasters. United Nations has defined the disaster as sudden event that leads to the huge loss of life and property. Words like huge and sudden are important in this definition of disaster. So as the disaster occurs suddenly, it cannot be predicted. Hence, precautions are not possible. So huge losses to the property occur in area of the disaster. There are long-term effects on society due to incidences of life and property loss. Various areas of life like economic, social, cultural, political, law and administration, etc. are affected by the disaster. The life in the area of disaster disturbs totally. There is loss of life, property of the people in distress. Earlier, we have studied various types of disasters and measures to be taken. None of the different disasters are similar. Period of each disaster is not same. Some disasters are short term, whereas some are long term. So nowadays we are suffering from COVID. So this is the long term disaster. Reason behind each disaster are also different. Depending upon the nature of disaster, it can be determined that which component of the environment will be affected more. So there are two main types of disasters. Can you guess which are two types of disasters? So they are man-made and natural. So there are two types of disaster, natural and man-made disaster. So earlier we have seen or studied the effects of various types of disaster and precautionary measures to be taken in case of disaster happens. We can classify the disasters into two ways, like catastrophic disaster, that means cyclones in Odisha. Then catastrophic disasters are seen like earthquakes of Gujarat and Latur, frequently buzzing cyclones in coastal Andhra Pradesh, etc., are included in catastrophic disaster. However, irrespective to all these, life has always However, irrespective to all these, life has always returned to normal within short time. Disasters making the impact for long duration are those whose after effects are either severe or severity increases with time. That means the disasters like famine, various problems of crops, strikes of workers, rising levels of oceans, deforestation, or desertification, all these are the disasters which make impact for long duration. So a picture is shown here. Let's see. So these pictures are taken from internet. So this picture shows us about the disasters. So flood is shown here in Mumbai. So in Mumbai and from Aurangabad also, earthquake in Aurangabad is shown here. So we can classify these disasters as the extent, or we can see here the extent of damage caused, the period of disaster. It is a short-term disaster, but effects are long-term. The reason of disaster is natural. So here the disasters are shown in this picture. Again, a classification is shown here. Let's see. So types of disasters, there are basically three types: geophysical, biological and man-made. In geophysical, geological and atmospheric disasters are there. So geological means earthquake, volcanoes, tsunami, landslides, landfall, erosion, alkalization, flooding, etc. are the disaster which includes in geological. Second is atmospheric. Atmospheric means hot and cold waves, storms, snowfall, cyclones, hailstorm, drought, flood, meteoroid, sunspots, etc. are atmospheric. Then third is biological. Biological means plants and animals. So in plants, fire forest, fungal diseases on plants, weeds, etc. are plant diseases or plant disaster. And in animal, infectious viruses, bacteria, or bite of poisonous animals, etc. included in animal disaster. And now man-made. In man-made, known and unknown and international. Unknown means poisonous gases as seen in Bhopal Kand. Then atomic test, unplanned action or accidents are unknown disasters. And man-made, international, intentional disaster, war, fire, bomb blast, forced migration, terrorism, rapes and child labor. These are the man-made, intentional or international leveled disasters.